Hey guys, I'm going to walk you through how to get the structure of your final project set up, and this will be done through code.org. So I'm on the home page and I'm signed in. When you scroll down, you will find a section of projects. I have a lot of them, but we're going to be creating a new one. So to do that, we're going to click View Full List down here, and then we're looking for WebLab. This is exactly like the interface that we used when we did our HTML unit. But the only difference is that there is not specific instructions at the top. So first thing we're going to do here is rename this. I'm going to call it Cadle underscore cyber final, and I would like for you to name yours the same way. And I'm hitting save. You can ignore that, sorry. Now I'm going to close this out to show you how to get back to this. So I'm just going back to code.org, scrolling down to the same place where we were before, except for now at the beginning of the projects list, you'll see that web page that we just created. Your final project is going to consist of a number of different web pages that will all come together to make a website. So we've got this HTML index file here first. That's going to be our home page, and it also gives us a style sheet with just some very plain formatting. We'll of course get to that later. The first thing we're going to do is add in all the pages that we need. So first, we're going to click Add HTML. It'll say New, and I'm right-clicking to rename. The first page we're going to have is cryptography. I'm going to do that same thing now for ethics. Next is security principles. Then web security. And finally, training. When we created each of these, it came with the default tags, and as you might recall, what we actually see displayed in the web page is going to get typed into the body section of each of these pages. So we're going to go through and add a header 1 to each page that has a name or a title. So I'm on the index right now, and this is our home page. You'll see it did reorder the pages as I typed them in alphabetically, but I'm just going to go down the list and enter the title for each page. We skip over that style sheet because that is not a web page, that is just a style sheet. So jumping down to training. Now each of our pages has at least a title on it to distinguish it from the other pages. Now, of course, in a website, we're not going to have an interface like this where we have a file tree to click from page to page. We need to add in some links so that when we're on an actual web page, we can navigate to any of the other web pages. Now, these links are actual text that is displayed on the page, so we are going to put them in the body section. So I'm just going to space down and make some white space here where we can start adding in the links. So we start off our links with an A, stands for anchor, and then I type href for hypertext reference. Now the next thing we type is going to be in quotation marks, and we type in the name of the HTML file. So I'm going to type in index here. You can see I'm currently on my ethics page. Doesn't really matter where you do this. We're going to end up copying and pasting a lot. I'm typing index.html. I'm doing that greater than sign to close the first part of the tag. And our index is our home page. So then we type home page And this is the actual text that will display in place of the file name for the link. I'm going to start making this same structure for each of the web pages here. I'm going to include ethics because if you think about the top of any web page, it doesn't really matter which section you're currently on, all of the links will still be displayed. So even if you're on the ethics page, we're still going to have the same row of links at the top of all of the pages. I'm going to pause it here real quick and type in the remaining couple of links that we're going to create. I finished typing in the rest of the links, and I think I had forgotten to put HTML at the end of the ethics link, so I added that in too. I also just went through and double checked that each of the links worked to take me to the other page. So for example, home page works out, and obviously ethics page, nothing's going to happen because it's just taking me to the same web page. Cryptography works, and so on. Make sure all of those work because we're about to copy and paste this into all of the pages, and if you have a link in here that doesn't work and you're copying and pasting it everywhere, then you're going to have to go back and fix it everywhere. So now I'm going to highlight and copy this with Control C, and I'm going to work on pasting this section into every page. So I'm making some space in that body section before the title that we made earlier, that heading, and pasting with Control V. I already have it on my ethics page. Now I'm doing the same thing for my home page. Same thing for security principles. Skipping over the style sheet because that is not a web page. Now on to training and finally web security. So now it doesn't really matter where you start. I'm going to click on my index.html. We should be able to navigate to every page smoothly. Now the order that you made your links in doesn't necessarily matter. Just based on what normal websites look like, you should probably have your home page first, and then I do want the training one last. This is actually the order that you'll be working on your pages when we do the bulk of the project, so that's why I did them in this order. I'm on the index.html page right now, the home page, and you may have noticed that in the head section it has this link here. This is a link to the style sheet. If you recall, when we use style sheets, they don't actually do anything until you link it to the web page. You have to tell that HTML file to use the style sheet in order for it to be applied. Now, you can't really tell that's being applied because when we click on that style sheet, you can tell that it just has a white background and black text and bold font. So it's really nothing that is showing that it's connected yet. So just for the sake of making sure that the link is working properly for the style sheet, I'm just going to pick a random color and make sure that it's working. So there it is. I can tell that this is working correctly with my HTML file. Because I know that's working correctly, I am now going to copy and paste this link into all of my other files because we're going to be using the same style sheet for all of the web pages. So pasting. I'm actually going to start using the keyboard shortcut instead. Control V. Again, I skipped over the style sheet because that's not a web page. Now all of our web pages should be displaying that green background. That is not the background that you need to keep, but that was just for the sake of being able to tell that the style sheet was successfully linked to each of the web pages. Back on the home page again, and again, it doesn't really matter where you start with this because we're going to be doing a lot of copy and pasting, but at the bottom of the body section, so right before that closing tag, we're going to be creating a little footer that's going to go at the bottom of each of your pages. So because I want this to be a footer, I want it to be small, I'm going to use an H6 tag since that's the smallest heading tag that we can use. I'm going to type website created by, and then type your name. And I'm going to say teacher at John Carroll. You're going to put, you can put student or you can put junior or senior or sophomore, whatever you like best. Now, I didn't type John Carroll yet because we're going to instead make the words John Carroll a link to the John Carroll website. In order to do that, we need the URL for the John Carroll website. So I'm going to go open a new tab and go to johncarroll.org. And woohoo, we've got all of our information about school closures. I'm going to copy that URL and go back over here. Now we're still working within our heading 6, but we're not going to close it out yet because we're going to have our link to the John Carroll webpage kind of embedded within this H6 tag. Now just like we used this structure here with the ahref to link the other web pages, we're going to be doing the same type of structure for the John Carroll webpage. Instead of having a file name like training.html though, it's going to be the URL for the John Carroll website. I'm going to type that in, ahref equals, and again, instead of a file name, I'm going to Control V to paste that URL. Greater than sign to close out the first part of the tag. And I want the link to say the John Carroll School, just so that it flows with the sentence that it's going to be within. I closed my link tag here, then a space down, and close out that H6. And here we are, website created by Ms. Cadle, teacher at the John Carroll School. When you click on that, it should take you to the John Carroll School website. We're going to have this at the bottom of each of our body sections of our web pages. So I'm copying all of this from the opening H6 tag to the closing H6 tag, copying with Control C. And we want this at the bottom of our body section. So I just made some extra space before that closing body tag, and I'm going to do the same thing on all of the web pages. We've got the little footer at the end of each page. Now there's nothing in the middle here, but make sure as you do start adding things to the page when we work on the project that you are keeping this footer at the bottom of each of your body sections of the web page so that it doesn't start falling in the middle of your content and looking messy. Earlier in the year we may have shared our project links. I think we did. But if you didn't recall, you don't just copy and paste this link here. What you do is you click share and you're going to copy this link that they give you. Now that allows you to open it up in a new tab. You paste the URL and you can view it as an actual web page. Now up at the top, I have some other web pages open and you can see that they have descriptive names, but ours currently just says the URL of the web page. I don't want that to happen, so I'm going to close this out. I'm going to show you how to change that. Now this is not something that displays on the web page, this is kind of extra information. So it's something that's going to go in the head section up here, and it's quite easy to fix that problem. We need the title tag, and then you're going to type the title of the page that you're on, or what you want to display up at the top. I want it just to display training. On the training page. Now I haven't done it for all of my pages yet, but I'm going to show you what that looks like now when I go to the training page of my website. Click training, and you'll see here now it actually says training up at the top instead of the URL. We're going to go in next and just do that same title tag in the head section of each of the other pages. I'm just going to start at the top, and I'm just going to pause the video and type each of these in. Okay, I just finished adding in that title line to each of our web pages, and again I'm going to open up that share link, copy and paste it into a new tab so we can double check that at the top when we go to any of those pages it is now displaying the name that we typed in for the title. You're now done setting up the structure of our web pages, so the very last thing we need to do is get that share link if you don't already have it copied. And you're going to go into your OneNote and find a final project, find the page called Share Link, and hit paste. And it's yelling at me to use Control V instead. So there we go, and you are done.